Hi and welcome to the Debrief Show. I'm your host, Dee Clayton, and today we're going to be talking to Mari Ball. She's all the way from Australia. She's an HR consultant and a management trainer, so she blends those two things together and she really cares about people. She's going to be talking to us about resilience and how to avoid burnout today, and she's got some really unique techniques, tools and tips, not just the average go and have a drink of water, go for a yoga meditation session. Whilst they are important, we've probably heard all of those. So listen to some new, fresh ideas from Mari, all the way from Australia today. And she's on the board of Wellbeing for Australia. So she brings that context and background. She's been spending a lot of time with her team thinking about these things, and she's just going to share some of those things with us in today's session. You're really going to love it. Please let's stay tuned and get your pens out to make some notes as we talk to Mari. Hi and welcome, Mari. I know you're on the board of Wellbeing Australia. Congratulations, that sounds fantastic. Tell me, you know everything about the research, what's going on not only in Australia but worldwide. What are some of the key research findings around resilience and avoiding burnout for our listeners, please?
Yeah, so particularly around the burnout, we've been following Gallup's poll, the state of the workplace. And we've been looking at, there's quite a lot of evidence out there at the moment around burnout. And I think we're all feeling it and we're seeing it in our teams and in our leadership. So one particular thing for 2025 was that our engagement levels in Australia, New Zealand, is at 21%. So engagement is measured by discretionary effort, what sort of discretionary effort people are given. Now, before I came on here, I had a bit of a look today for the UK, and the UK is quite alarmingly is sitting at 10%, which is the lowest in all the regions. So that just tells us that there's, quite a bit of evidence over in the UK where there's quite a lot of pressures, mental overloads, probably digital overloads. There's probably a lot of things happening in the UK, which might be why we're talking about this today. And hopefully I'll be able to share some strategies and some ideas that we've found on Wellbeing Australia that our people have actually received and found quite useful.
Sounds like we need it, Mari. Sounds like we need it. Tell me, the discretionary effort description that you mentioned, what does that mean? Does that mean over and above my job, how much extra I want to put in? Just give us a little bit of a definition of that, or a bit more explanation about that 10%, please.
Yeah, so that discretionary effort is around that little bit of extra. So my position description says I do A, B and C. It's 10 to 5 in the afternoon. Someone asks for something a bit extra. Do you push back or do you lean in, and do you do that? And what we're seeing is that people are going, I work these hours, and they're not performing over and above. People, are really compartmentalizing their work, and they're really guarding their time outside of work. So, which is some of the new legislation that's happening in Australia sort of leans into that as well.
Yeah, because I think the UK looked at, after I last spoke to you, actually, you were mentioning that legislation, and the UK had it on its agenda and then it got knocked off. So although it's not happening in the UK, just tell us quickly about that legislation, because it's obviously a flavour around well, not around all of the globe, but some places are looking at it. So just tell us quickly about that. That's interesting.
Yes. So there is a right to disconnect legislation. And so that what that means is that there is no onus on anybody in the workplace to connect back into the workplace, like answer emails, take phone calls from their managers or anything like that without an agreement beforehand, and probably compensation to pick up the phone after hours. And that's been quite a level of stress for a lot of workplaces when they worry that they're putting too much pressure on their staff, because that then leads into another piece of legislation that we have, psychosocial safety, where managers are responsible for the mental health and the safety, psychological safety of their employees now. So we're seeing quite a lot of stress from leaders about how do I have a conversation around something difficult? How do I, challenge somebody on something without them feeling like it's bullying, and I getting, into trouble for, encroaching on someone's psychological safety. So
yeah, you can see both sides of that. You
yeah,
want to push people into something, to grow and develop, right? But you don't want to push them too fast. So that might cause people to hold back. So I've got so many questions now. So one of them is around, that's 10% in the UK. Is that a good thing then? Does that mean we're brilliant at guarding our time and we are the most unburnt out country? Or does that, because of the 10% effort thing, why is 10% discretionary effort a bad number if it is a bad number?
Well, it's around engagement. So discretionary effort is part of engagement, our engagement. So that's 1 in 10 people are engaged in your work. So, and evidence of engagement will often be discretionary effort. So that's the evidence. So if you look at your team and you go, according to the data, 1 in 10.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily mean working extra hours. It could be just doing that extra thing in your day, in your time, that you're, even if you have good boundaries, you can still do discretionary effort because you're like, I'll do that extra job in my time boundaries. Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. So it sounds, sorry, go on.
So I was just going to say that also impacts innovation, because when we're not making an effort, we're maybe not innovating as well. We're not looking for better solutions to some of the problems in our workplace.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so would you say Australia's leading the way in this, or are there other European countries that are doing the same or as well as Australia on this?
Yeah, so Australia's not doing good either. So Australia's sitting at something like 21%, which is still not very high at all. Globally, I think it was 24%. So globally, we have a problem. So particular post-COVID, we do have a problem with engagement in the workplace. So we have a lot of pressure.
So wherever you're listening, whichever country you're listening to this in, it's quite likely it's relevant to you. Yeah, I feel that. So let's talk about, as an individual leader, why is it important to me? Let's forget the team for a moment. Why is it important to me to listen to some of the techniques and tips you're going to give us later? Why is that important?
Because leaders, they're our emotional shock absorbers. They take on the shock from everybody in the team. They try and protect their people, and they try and build buffers around their people. So they're actually absorbing everyone else's stresses and, everyone's concerns, everyone's problems. The leaders take them all on. And I think what's really important as leaders is, we're not infallible. We do burn out, and sometimes we silently burn out. So on the outside it looks like we're engaged, that we're on top of everything, but inside we can be really depleted. So I think it's really important, if you have a really good look at yourself, to go, actually, is my cup full or not? Where is my engagement, my energy levels as well?
And I think some of that is not being aware, self-aware. So even the person themselves don't realize. So they say, no, I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. It's great. And so I know, I'm just reminding me of a leader I spoke to that was going through so much with their personal life that kept on saying, I'm fine. And in the end I was like, it's okay. If I had that stuff going on, I would need to talk about it. And we got through eventually, but he was completely kind of, no, that's home. That's not work, So just sort of being more self-aware. And then as a leader, so let's say I'm now aware of my burnout issues, and I'm going to take some of the techniques that you give me later. What about my team? What's the problems or challenges with helping my team to be better at resilience or prevent burnout?
Yeah, so I just want to mention first, there may be a disconnect around the resilience, because we do talk a lot about, you need to encourage your people to be resilient, and we put out a lot of wellbeing strategies, and we do all these sort of things. And one of the problems with that is it's like a resilience gap. Our intention and our perception from the team aren't the same. So the team hear us say, you know, I've got all this stuff for you, all these resources and all these strategies. And before I share them, I just want to make a point that the team might be going, you're telling us to be more resilient, to look after ourselves, but you have back-to-back meetings. You know, you put unrealistic deadlines on us. You put a lot of work on us that we clearly can't do as people leave. They're not getting replaced. And so we're messaging something, but we're not personally engaged in actually putting those strategies into place for our people. You know, so I think there's often a gap there around resilience. So, and it comes up in engagement surveys and exit interviews where people say, you didn't care, you didn't look after me.
So you're saying, so be a bit more, even more direct about what you're saying, that the leader just thinks resilience is about I want to make you resilient so you can do more work. That's what you're saying, yeah? Well,
people are saying it's important, and particularly in Australia, we're saying it's important that your staff are resilient. So we're worried about psychosocial safety. So here's a cupboard load of resources for you to use at any time. But we're actually not really engaging with people on what does resilience look like and giving them real tools. There's so many different aspects of resilience that we don't even look at. We just want people to bounce back. And that's part of that resilience. A work tool that I often use with my clients, it's looking at all the different aspects of that make up our resilience.
Okay. Oh, look forward to getting to that later. Brilliant. So yeah, making sure you're committed to not just saying, right, you've got to be resilient over there, and by the way, here's 10 more things to do on your to-do list. Right. It's about actually being the leader, doing that myself in my own life. So you copy what I do. I'm a good role model, and also then how I roll out stuff to you is involved. Resilience is embedded in the work that we do every day, not just a cupboard of resources. I see that. I see that not happening a lot. I see what you mean. And for the organisation, tell us about the organisation. Why is it a problem for the organisation? Burnout, lack of resilience. Why is that a problem?
Well, we've always got the costs. So being a HR consultant, it is all about what are the costs, not only personally, but we have absenteeism. And because absenteeism is quite tracked now in most organisations, we have now got the added problem now of presenteeism. So people are actually coming to work, but they're not really with us. They're doing just enough to keep themselves out of a performance discussion. It's clinical. They're just going through their day, doing their work, but they're not actually engaged in their work. And that's can look like I attend meetings, but I don't participate. You know, I don't come up with innovative solutions. I don't make an effort to talk to my teammates. You know, I don't engage. So that's one of the biggest ones. We have high turnover rates, and the people that we're losing in workplaces are often the highly capable people. And we can't afford to lose those people that we've invested so much in, but they're the ones that often get burnt out because they take on a lot of the workload. And there comes a time if we don't look after them, we will lose them to another organisation that has worked out that they have to look after people to retain them. The other one was culture erosion. So this is around psychological safety, and trust breaks down. So we then end up with a culture in our organisation where people will say things like, you know, management don't look after you. They say one thing, but they mean something else. And you don't model good resilience tactics and strategies. So they're the things that can happen for organisations that aren't taking any attention on their people or even looking after themselves, because it is a bit like when you get on a plane, you know, you need to put your own oxygen mask on so that you can put on someone else's. And that's exactly right for leadership. It starts at the top about looking after and modelling their own resilience strategies, and then they can look after everybody else's. And it doesn't seem like they're saying something and not doing it themselves.
Yeah. And there's sort of the reverse side of that. When you said your HR background, I was just having a conversation with a nurse literally yesterday saying how when you're more of a maybe caring type, for example, HR or in the kind of hospitality industry or in nursing, you're very much about giving to other people, which is lovely. But how do you fill your own cup? You were talking about that cup of energy or whatever it is in your cup, but how do you fill it? Because you're so busy giving it away to others. So it could be the kind of leader that's kind of doing so much and such a high performer that they're burning out and their teams are burning out. But it might also be that the team's doing really well, but it's the leader that's burning out because they're giving so much and not looking at their own cup. So you've reminded me of that actually as well, isn't it? There's different sides to it.
Yeah. And the thing to remember around a lot of people that find themselves in leadership roles is that they were probably technical experts in their field, and then they got elevated to leadership, and it's a whole different skill set. So for many people, they might be in the job for 20 years, but they might be 2 years old in leadership. And, you know, so be kinder to yourself if you struggle in the leadership space, because it is a different skill set from the technical ability that probably got you promoted into there.
That's a great lead into a podcast that I recently recorded. So that is called The Reluctant Leader. And it's all about the fact that you probably didn't choose to be a leader. You were a subject matter expert and then you got promoted. So thank you for mentioning that. And I'll recommend that my listeners also go to that Reluctant Leader podcast on that as well. So let's talk about what can we do to sort it all out. Tell me, have you got some solutions? Let's start with the individual. Have you got some solutions for sorting ourselves out? It always starts with us, doesn't it? 3 fingers back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, one of the, and I was trying to come up with different solutions than what you hear everywhere. We often, we hear about, you know, making sure you're sleeping, and we talk about all those sort of things. But here's some things that I thought would be really helpful for your people.
I'm going to write these down while you're going.
Okay. So one practical step leaders can start to model healthy behaviours and build a resilient work culture is protect your recovery time publicly. So leaders should visibly take breaks, block out non-negotiable deep work time. We can also share when we're logging off. And, you know, what this does is this sends a message to the people around us that rest is a part of performance. So we don't always have to be on, because often if we're always on, we're actually sitting in, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, and we sit in that amygdala and we can get overwhelmed, and then we lose productivity, and then it causes a whole raft of other problems for us. So leaders can use check-in times to talk about energy, and I think I touched on that a bit earlier, not just tasks. So, you know, it shifts that culture from our obsession with output, like how much are you doing this week? What's got to be done next? And we start moving to human sustainability. So we check in.
So just to be clear on that, you set aside some time in a team meeting to not talk about tasks, but to talk about my energy, my motivation.
So getting, which is around your motivation, you know, as well, which is another thing we can touch on shortly as well as part of the solution. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we model these healthy behaviours to the people around us, because it helps us to keep them as well. So, which is why a lot of times now we have managers. I did a workshop the other day with some very senior managers in government, and one lady said, I carry the work phone and my personal phone around all weekend because I'm concerned I'm going to miss something. And her very, very senior manager is sitting at the table, and I said, is that what you want? She said, no, not at all. And I said, have a discussion about how you're going to manage weekend time, because you need to recover and you need to rest as a leader. Now, these people have, you know, thousands of people underneath them that rely on them to be making good decisions. So what the decision was at the end was, leave your work phone in your bag, leave it somewhere else. If I need you, you don't have to keep checking. If I need you, if you're happy with me to have your personal number, I will call you on your personal phone if I need you, and it can't wait till Monday. So they came up with a solution because we had a conversation around modeling good behavior for everybody else. So
and I worked with an executive once who was going on holiday for 2 weeks and felt that they had to log in every day and look at emails. And I know some companies do expect that, and whether that's good or not good, and but I think the thing was about expectations. That's what he thought his boss expected him to do. And similarly, I said, well, before you go away, go and talk to the boss and ask, is that what you expect? I mean, if that's what you expect and that's what you're paid for, then that's up to you, isn't it? But it might not be what he expects, and it wasn't at all what he expected. He said, well, actually, can you just do it on the Monday or something, because we've got this big meeting, and other than that, I'll get in touch with you if I need you. And some people might say you shouldn't be in touch at all on holiday, and those are different, but some of it is our expectations and not even being clear with the other person. So talking is a good starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's really important to mention, Dee, is around setting clear expectations of, how much, what you do expect from your leaders and what you do expect from your subordinates. And I think in the absence of clear information, most people probably put a lot of pressure on themselves and they do stuff that they don't need to do. So, I mean, I interviewed somebody today and they said, what, for a job in my company, and she said, I said, what days would you like to work? And she said, oh, these 2 days. And then on the Tuesday, she does something for herself, which is the only thing she does in a week for herself. And she said, if you want that day, I'll give that to you. And I said, but that's the day where you get, your energy from going and doing this particular activity. I said, I wouldn't want to take that from you.
Nice.
So, understanding where your people are at and what they need and making it clear what you need as well. So,
and knowing what you need. I think sometimes it's all very well saying do this, do that, but people haven't spent time even knowing themselves, do they? So brilliant. So I don't know if that covers the step for teams as well. Maybe not. Is there anything else as a leader you want me to do for my teams?
Yeah, look, the only thing I had was the 15-minute resilience reset once a week. So as a team, come together to reflect on workload, stress points, what might be happening, what could be helping or hindering their energy, having a bit of a discussion about that once a week. And I love the walk talk meetings where you go out and get some fresh air. So I think that's really, and of course I'll give the resilience at work team model a bit of a plug. So where you focus on things like supportive relationships, alignment, and how you manage stress together, because it's really important in a team environment that we build a shared responsibility for how we perform, that we take responsibility and we're accountable to each other for how we perform, each and every one of us.
Great. And later on, we'll show people where they can get that from your website. So we'll go through that later. That's really good. On that, when you were saying about doing the meeting on resilience, do you recommend that the leader goes first? I'm often talking about the leader goes first when it's a vulnerable thing. Do you suggest that as well, or something different?
Yeah, I think you need to, it's contextual. I think if you've got a problem, you ask everybody else first, because you probably walk into a meeting as a leader with the solution already. You be last in that case. But if it's around vulnerability, I think it's important for staff to see that, that you are a bit vulnerable and that you do share some of the, challenges that you have in looking after yourself. So I think that's a great idea.
That you're human as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, we both do motivational maps. In fact, that's where we met, isn't it? At the Motivational Maps conference. So I was so pleased to see you speak there. Thank you for coming on the podcast as well. How can, and some of the listeners know a little bit about motivational maps. Susanna Bray-Waring, she did a talk, came on as a guest about succession planning and using motivational maps and that. So they don't know loads about motivational maps, but they might know something, and they know that it measures people's sort of energy and where they get that energy from. How can motivational maps help? Or even if you don't use the maps, but just knowing what it is that gives you energy, let's say, how can that help you in this topic of resilience?
Yeah, so look, when we're misaligned, and what the motivational maps does, it actually does detect what it is that drives us, so what those internal drivers are. And when we're misaligned between someone's motivators and their role or the team culture, it's a silent contributor to burnout. And often we don't put our finger on it. Like if we're a particular motivator, like, we're high searcher and we don't feel our job has any purpose anymore, so we start to burn out because we're actually doing things that feel like they're going against the grain. So motivational maps can help us spot early signs of disengagement for staff when people are starting to feel a bit dissatisfied. It helps us with recognition and also how we delegate. And this is something else to be really aware of with the maps, particularly in a leadership role, is that maybe we don't delegate well, and that could be contributing to our burnout also, because there's a particular motivator called the director motivator, where people thrive, they're happy to take responsibility, they're very good at influencing, very good at delegating. People who don't have that director, but they're in that position where they need to do it, it could actually drain them if they're not given enough strategies and skills to enable them to lead well. And I did 250 directors, which is a leadership level in a government department. We mapped them all to see what was important to them. And their lowest motivator was director. And they were all in leadership roles. Now, it didn't mean that they weren't doing it well, because many of them were doing it very well. It just meant that that's not where they were getting their energy from. So we had to think of, for each and every one of them, it is personal. And, it was really important for us to know each person and what they needed to enable them to fulfill that leadership role and be satisfied with that.
Fantastic. That links perfectly in with series 1 episode on succession planning with Susanna, and series 2 episode with Mark Terrell on that reluctant leader. We talk about delegation in there. So I didn't even pre-plug you with that, did I? So
no, you didn't.
So I can't believe we're almost coming to a close. And I've got so many questions I want to ask you. One of which is about you being on the board of Wellbeing Australia. I know you shared some research with us earlier. Is there anything else from that you think is relevant, that you see trends coming out that's relevant to international audience?
Yeah, look, burnout's relevant across all the environments. It's quite an unstable world that we're in at the moment. Financially, people have really taken a hit economically. So we're seeing a lot in the burnout space. We've been given particular attention to first responders, people in leadership with first responders, so ambulance, police, emergency services, and we've been doing a lot of work in the education space as well with educational leaders, because educational leaders pour out into the young people and they take that, they're the buffer for the young people as well. If home's not stable, they're taking on a lot of extra emotional energy from the young people. So they're the two areas that we've been looking at. So and loneliness was the other one.
That sounds like a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole different world, that because of the hybrid work environment, really high loneliness data, but the same data when they've come back to work, but they haven't engaged with other people. So we're getting the same results, either working from home or working in the workplace, but that's a whole nother chat.
Yeah, because the workplace has changed so much, and you go in and people aren't there, and gosh. Okay, another topic. Thank you. I'll come back to that at some point. So tell us, what resources do you have? Can you just share your web address where we can find your resources, and tell us about a few resources that are, not too heavy, but just that we can go and have a look at and research a bit more?
Yeah, so murrayballconsulting.com is my web address, but people can always just send me I'm happy for people to send me emails if they want resources. I'm happy to share what I have, because I really believe in, that we all help each other here. One of the strategies that I thought might be really useful that we don't often talk about, and it's quite practical, is micro boundary stacking. So what happens is, it's about us layering small intentional boundaries throughout the day that will preserve, and they will actually protect our energy. So examples are, and this is one of my favorite, is naming and closing loops, particularly before meetings, to have a mental reset. So what this does is we want to get some mental closure from a previous task or something that we're thinking about a lot, so we can be present in the next meeting. Because often what happens is when we're in overwhelm, we will come to a meeting, we're not really there. As we're thinking of things, we're scribbling other things down, and people don't get all of us. And people, whenever we pick somebody, they deserve the right to get all of us to be present. So what we do is that we name whatever we're looping on, we name it and we write it down. So it might be, I'm still thinking about that report. But what we do then is we set a time to revisit it. So we might say, thinking about that report, I've got this meeting in 5 minutes. I'm going to revisit it at 3 p.m. And what we do then is we signal to our brain that it's safe to temporarily let that go. So it doesn't keep working on it. So, it's just a simple prompt like, what do I need to park so that I can be present in this meeting? What do I need to park?
I love that. That works really well with some of the diary stuff that I encourage people to do is to put their tasks in time slots throughout the day rather than a to-do list. So what I'm thinking is, how would that work for me? What that looks like for me is moving that task that I haven't finished down to after that meeting and just say sort of part 2 or complete so that I'm like, there it is at 3 o'clock. That's how it feels for me. So people don't do that sort of thing, do they? They just let it loose.
They let it go, and it's like a computer with all these open tabs, and we want to close those tabs because we want them, we don't want to focus on them at the moment. Now's not the time to focus on that. And so we close the tabs and we tell our brain it's okay, because it drains our bandwidth when we're trying to think of 10 different things at once. So it's really important that it helps us to reduce mental load. And I think
do you have a strategy for that? I mean, that exact thing for the end of the day, then must be really important to get the sleep, to go home, to stop worrying. Is that the same technique or a different technique for the end of the day?
I'm a bit of a fan of writing down what I've accomplished at the end of the day and writing down what needs to be done tomorrow. Like taking 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the end of the day. The reason I write down what I've accomplished for the day is often when we have a performance discussion with our manager, and it's really important for us to go back, these are the things that I've actually achieved in the last 12 months. So I always recommend everyone writes everything down. Also, it helps for us to be, I dislike the word busy and I like the word productive. And if we say we've had a busy day, it's like we're spinning on a top. We're just spinning. But if we say I've had a really productive day, and here's my evidence in my diary, I actually did achieve 2 things today or 3 things today. I had a great conversation with a staff member today. I really supported the company today, or whatever it is. You can reflect back on that at the end of the week and go, that was a really productive week. That was really useful. I contributed. And on the weekend, I'm going to rest and recover so I can do the same again next week.
Yeah, I love that. And that really fits into motivation. And what I'm thinking on top of that then is that with some of my clients in mind, we need to break down the tasks into steps so that we can say we achieved step 1 of project X, because otherwise they go home going, well, I haven't achieved anything, Mari, because I haven't finished it yet. Well, if you break that down into mini steps, then you can achieve more and be more motivated to do step 2.
Because that's I lecture on project management, a bit of a side hustle, lecturing at a university. And in project management, it's all steps. We don't talk about that project, and I didn't finish the project today. We talk about step 3 of the project, which to be completed this week, and I completed step 3 of the project. So I think, the micro steps or the manageable steps, and I think the key is not to make our expectations from us unrealistic, because as a leader, guess who's coming to us all day? People are coming to us all day, and at the end of the day, we often say, I did nothing today. And that's because we didn't do what we set out to do, and we're a bit unrealistic of our 8 hours or whatever it is of what we're going to achieve in it. And I think we have to really take on that our people who come to us with problems or suggestions or whatever it is, that's all part of our work.
That is our work, yeah, as well as the other work
that we do. And that can be a success at the end of the day with managing a great conversation, or the conversation didn't go as well, but this is what I learned and this is how I do it differently next time.
Wow. That's fantastic. I think we definitely want to have you on again, telling us all about, you said about that side hustle. I happen to know you have about 1,000 other side hustles, including lecturing in China. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm sure there's loads more we can talk to you about. But thank you for now. Thank you for your time. Before we say goodbye, is there anything else that that you want to mention? Any other questions I should have asked you, or anything that you feel you really want to get out there to our international listeners?
Yeah, there was just one thing that I just wanted to share as a takeaway. Resilience is not a personality trait, and burnout is not a sign of weakness. So both are deeply contextual. So to remember that, and if I could leave leaders with this one message, it's you're not immune to the culture you create. So investing in resilience isn't about you cushioning your people from hard work. It's actually about creating the capacity for people to meet the challenges that they have, recover, and that they can grow stronger. So that's good business, and it's also good leadership.
Thank you so much. We'll leave it there. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
More than welcome, Dee. Thanks very much for having me.
My pleasure. Well done today. I happen to know that this is a world exclusive because you've never done a podcast before. So you're fantastic. And I'm sure that people will be asking you to do them left, right and centre now. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Dee.
Thank you very much for joining us on the debrief show today. I really enjoyed that conversation with Mari, and I made loads of notes myself, and I hope you did too. Let's make sure we implement some of those things that she's talking about. And if you enjoyed today's show, then please do tune in to all our other shows. We're available on any podcast channel, including Apple and Spotify, and we're available for you to see our lovely faces on YouTube. Just search for Dee Clayton channel and the Debrief Show playlist, and all of the videos will be there to watch as well. We look forward to seeing you, and please do share this episode and any other episodes that take your fancy. We really appreciate you being part of the community. And if you have any questions, then please get in touch. And if you think you want to be a guest on the show, get in touch too, and maybe you can join us in the next series. Look forward to hearing from you, and look forward to hearing about how you have taken these tips on resilience to help you to improve your work and personal life. Take care.